We could solve all of our health issues right here, right now in this podcast. It's the sugar, it's the vegetable oil, it's the this, it's the that, it's all of it. As we consume more of this stuff, like we're getting more and more obese, we're getting more and more dementia, we're getting more and more heart disease. Everything changed when I started paying attention to the individual person and their life, looking at their sleep quality, asking them about their heritage, like where's your family come from? Right? So what did you eat traditionally? Instead of getting into this diet dogma and using some glorified framework.
Oh, for sure.
I leaned into, let's personalize this. Let's do what's best for you. We could solve all of our health issues right here, right now in this podcast. We've been focused, myself included, working as a practitioner and same as you.
Yes.
We're telling people to make these behavior changes.
Right.
But they're trying to make these changes in a culture that is largely unhealthy, that is fighting against them.
Right.
That's the problem. We're trying to encourage behavior change in a society that is set up to make you unhealthy.
Exactly.
If we change the culture, we change the health, right? And I think it would be valuable for us to understand, like, what is culture? Culture, I think about, my college economy class and this concept like the invisible hand, right? But culture is really the invisible hand. Culture is defined as the shared attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors of a group of people that is passed down from one generation to the next. All right? That's what culture is defined as. And so the culture is like a container that is determining your choices and your awareness of things, whether you know it or not. You don't even understand it. You're existing in this thing. You're born into it. And so in a culture, there's just certain things you do. You wear certain things. You speak a certain way. You eat certain things, right? You communicate a certain way. And part of what brought me to this is I've had a unique experience of being intimately in different cultures, being biracial myself, but also having the ability, working at a university. When I was in school and then becoming a strength and conditioning coach at the university, I worked with people from all over the world, and I was often invited to stuff, so I got to see these different intricacies, and it was just kind of adding to this patchwork quilt that I was able to develop, and how do I communicate and help different people. And universally, we all want the same thing.
Sure.
We all want to be healthy, we all want to feel significant, and our family is taking care of all these things, but we don't think about how the culture is determining our choices. And so with that being said, we have a culture now. Again, we just look out here and, it's a little bit different here on Sunset. It's a little different, but you could pick so many streets here in America and you just look down the street and it is just littered with fast food
Absolutely.
options, ultra processed food at every turn, and this is something that, again, I didn't grow up with all of this access to all this stuff. And I remember it was a treat to go to McDonald's.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
I had a birthday party at McDonald's. I think it was like my 6th birthday. And I remember it so clearly, it was like all the characters, Grimace, which is a terrible name. If you think about it.
Grimace.
He's kind of, he's obese, and he's in pain. Grimace means pain.
Grimace had way too much McDonald's.
Yes. Then they got another one, the Hamburglar. He's literally a felon, and McDonald's, he's a clown. Clowns are scary. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So I could go on and on, but it's just this was a rare occasion. It was a treat, right? And it kind of devolved in a way that became the norm, right? So and this is when I lived with my grandmother, and then because my mother was struggling, just to have a place to stay, living in the inner city. My grandmother, this is my white grandmother, and I lived with her from kindergarten through 2nd grade.
Is this also in St. Louis?
St. Louis, yeah. So this was it was in Maplewood. So it was like a little bit nicer area, and she made dinner every night pretty much, She had a garden, and my grandfather was a hunter, and he would forage for things right? It was but as time went on, I was getting more and more distant because of my friends. I want the Capri Suns. I want the Lunchables, eventually they came out.
Right.
I want the Pop-Tarts. I want the things that my friends are having. And so over time and my grandmother, and this is another tie-in for everybody, if they've ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages.
I love that book.
It's so powerful. It's so
Such
powerful.
a powerful book.
But food ties into the 5 love languages so beautifully, because oftentimes there are certain people who express their love through food.
Right.
It's a love language, right? It's a gift that they're giving. It's an act of service, right? And also the physical touch aspect of food.
Yes.
Nothing touches you more intimately than food. Like you're taking something from outside of your body and putting it into your body. It's becoming a part of you.
Yes.
How intimate is that?
That's true. I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
Yeah, I can go on and on with the connections, but because she's showing her love through food and wanting me to be happy, she would allow me or relent to let me have the fish sticks and the macaroni and cheese, because she wanted the kid to eat something.
Yeah. And back then, they didn't even realize the dangers of ultra-processed food. Now we know, right? So, but
that's exactly what I was going to say, because she wouldn't want to hurt me.
Yeah.
She just didn't know. These were new, revelations and advances in nutrition. I just popped this in the microwave. Quick.
Remember the TV dinners?
Of course.
Oh,
the Salisbury
I love those.
steak.
Right, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
With the little muffin or the brownie in there. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Or the little apple pie in there that got warmed up with it.
Oh my goodness. Microwaves were very different back then too. They never warmed up evenly.
Never.
Right. But she was just doing what was becoming more normal in the culture. And eventually moving with my mother, because my grandfather, unfortunately, again, he was getting pulled into this and seduced. He had high cholesterol at the time. This is in the 80s.
Yeah.
His doctor recommended that he starts eating country crock.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Wow.
So stop eating butter. Stop eating eggs. Eat margarine, right? Watch your fat. He went from having high cholesterol to having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And having open heart surgery.
Right.
All right. And, the things, you shouldn't be eating the deer meat and all that stuff. You need to be eating, lean, whatever, And so, and again, not to villainize any of these things, but he started eating more ultra processed foods versus the stuff that he was being told. And also, again, today we know that having, quote, high cholesterol is just the metric itself is, it is such an oversimplification.
Absolutely.
Of something, right?
Absolutely.
And so again, I wish I would have known then what I knew, but then I'd be like 5, like, hey, Pop, listen. But, I went back to live with my mother because my grandparents moved to, quote, the country. So this was in St. Louis, but he grew up down in the Boot Hills, southern Missouri.
Sure.
And so going down there was like gravel road.
Right.
That's actually where I learned. I learned how to ride a bike downhill on a gravel road. All right. That's how my grandfather was. It's like literally sink or swim. You know what I'm saying? So I fell off one time and I learned quickly, But, and that's that part of that culture. But going back to live with my mother in the inner city and, going from like an all white, not all white, but just say 95% to now 95% black. And also now we're on government assistance, so we're getting food stamps. Now we have like a corner store and we're just I'm surrounded by ultra processed food, and fast food is everywhere now.
Right.
Versus at my grandmother's, there was a McDonald's down the street, couple blocks away. And then there was like Kmart or his Venture at the time.
Right.
And that was about it. Laundromat, there was a liquor store and by the gas station. But now there's 7-Eleven, there's Domino's Pizza, there's Pizza Hut, there's White Castles, I can go on and on. Multiple McDonald's. And all these stuff pretty much in a walking distance.
Right.
And these are the things that my friends are having. I'm on the free lunch program at school, which is prison food.
Yeah.
I got this little red ticket. And now, and this is a true story, and this is bringing a really important point for everybody listening or watching. And this is the fact that my diet now evolved or devolved to being about 80% ultra-processed foods.
For sure. Yeah.
And I was not abnormal because according to JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, huge analysis was published in 2019, 2018. They looked at the ultra-processed food consumption by U.S. children. Okay. All right. And they tracked it from 1999 to 2018. All right. In 1999, the average child was already eating right around 64% ultra-processed foods. In 1999.
1999.
Yes.
Wow.
By 2018, that number had reached 67.5%. Almost 70% of our children's diet is ultra-processed food in the United States. And of course, there's kids that are going to be on both ends. Right. I was definitely on the higher end of ultra-processed food consumption. And so my body, from that point, everybody that I knew, I cannot think of one person in my family who didn't have one chronic condition.
Sure.
My little brother, chronic asthma. He's hospitalized at least every 2 months.
Right.
Myself, same thing. I'd spend these stints in the hospital. I had all these inhalers. I didn't have asthma previously, but now I have asthma. My little sister, she had the worst eczema that you could ever see. She was suffering, this little girl. My mother, diabetes, obesity, my stepfather, heart disease, hypertension, alcoholism, the list goes on and on. Everybody had something.
Right.
And this was abnormal, but it became normal.
Right.
Right. And that, I'm saying all this to say, that is the power of a culture.
Exactly.
This is what I was around. I didn't know that there was a difference between the fish sticks and some wild-caught salmon.
Absolutely.
This is just what I was exposed to. I didn't know that, that there was such thing as meditation and yoga. And I didn't know what, quote, real food was. I thought real food was Doritos.
Right.
I thought real food was, or just it was okay to drink these barrel juices, right? That was like, and 0% juice in the juice.
Right.
And they're red, they're cherry red, which now the dye has been banned.
Now we know,
recently.
Right.
So, and that's the power of culture. So the point being, and we'll talk more about this today, is if we change the culture, we change the health outcomes automatically.
Yes.
If I was inundated and surrounded by, and I've seen it because I've replicated it. Yeah. If you see my children, you see what happens when they grow up within a healthy culture.
Exactly. No, and there's such a great point. Going back to these studies that have been done on culture and how they affect your health, we hear about these blue zones all the time, right? And people are trying to dissect, what do these people eat? And is there one ingredient like olive oil that makes all the difference, or blueberries? Really what it's all about is the people are in a culture where the food choices are not ultra-processed food. These are foods that are real food, right? And so basically, and then the other part of that, on top of that too, is they're cooking their food, they're respecting their food, they're eating together, and it all makes sense when you look at it that way. There's not one magic ingredient. It's really the overall environment that you're surrounding yourself by, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's another important point. If you look at the data, and be honest, I mean, it's very difficult because we have our biases. So people collecting this data can have their slant towards, it's because they're eating a lot of, plants, right? They're they're vegetarian, whatever the case might be. The diets are very diverse.
Very diverse.
In these
Every
hot
single one
spots
of them.
of longevity.
Right.
And, I'm just going to give an example, but if you look at places in Italy that were analyzed, one of them is popular for creating bologna. That's where it's the home of bologna.
Exactly.
And so they're eating pork and they're eating, all these different pastas and cheeses and all these things and wine and but you won't see that in the research, when it's packaged up.
They'll pick out, right.
The diet, but here's the thing. Number one, all of these different places, they're eating mostly real food.
Right.
Pretty much almost 100%.
Even the bologna, I mean, it's coming from wild-fed pigs that are, out there in nature. They're not fed like these mass-produced grains and raised in little stalls where they're not allowed to move, right?
So even synthetic, newly invented chemical additives and preservatives and food colorings and all these other things that help things to look a certain way here or, extend the shelf life.
Yeah.
And, so that's the hallmark is they're eating real food, minimally processed.
Exactly.
If you think about, humans have been processing food a long time. And I'm grateful. I've got many of my colleagues who have been sharing this as well.
Sure.
But this is something that I made a point to talk about years ago because it's not about just eat an apple, right? Or just, whatever. No. We can process foods in a healthful way, right? Olive oil, you mentioned olive oil, is remarkably healthy. There's tons of data on this. I'll share just something teed up in my mind. Yeah. But some researchers at Auburn found that extra virgin oleocanthal-rich, extra virgin olive oil is one of the few things ever discovered that has a direct impact on the blood-brain barrier. Essentially, researchers found that it has the potential to repair damage to the blood-brain barrier and reduce neuroinflammation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So it has this resonance with our brain and our nervous system, for real, And so we've got data on this associated with Alzheimer's, and the list goes on and on. It's a special thing. Yeah. But it's processed.
Right.
You take in the oils, but it's cold processed.
Yeah.
Extra virgin means it's cold processed.
Sure.
Stone pressed, you crush the olives, but you're not adding deodorizers and synthetic dyes and all this other stuff and hexane extraction.
Exactly.
It's minimally processed, bottled in dark glass if it's done right, because it's photosensitive. There's some chlorophyll there as well, but you take that versus the stuff that's, ultra processed, there's this debate going on with the vegetable
the seed oils and the vegetable oils.
I got friends and colleagues who are like, vegetable oil. No. It's an ultra processed food.
It's made in a
by
factory.
The definition. It is. Are you advocating now, with your nutrition degree, that people eat ultra processed foods or everything in moderation? No, you don't want to do that.
No.
And also, again, understanding how it's made, and also understanding we got tons of studies on this. It's not. It's alarming to me when somebody's like, the data shows that, there's no problem. Do you read? Because there's a bunch of studies that show otherwise. And I actually cited a couple in my book related to heart disease, related to dementia, related to damaging your DNA, just the smell. And this was published in the journal Inhalation Toxicology. And the researchers found that just inhaling the fumes of vegetable oil during cooking was enough to damage the worker's DNA. All right. It's some gnarly stuff.
That's
Again,
gnarly.
it is massively ultra processed, and it's got all of these different synthetic. It's already oxidized.
Right.
I love the analogy of being oxidation in a bottle.
Yeah.
But of course, sure. There are some studies showing that it can improve health, different parts of health, but we got to look at all the data.
Sure.
And so I don't want to villainize anything. But if we have a choice, we should probably lean towards the things that humans have been doing for thousands of years that are minimally processed, that we know to be safe over a period of time, that we don't have studies just showing as we consume more of this stuff, we're getting more and more obese, we're getting more and more dementia, we're getting more and more heart disease. And we could point fingers, and this has happened over the years. It's the sugar, it's the vegetable oil, it's the this, it's the that. It's all of it.
It's all of it together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The seed oil debate drives me crazy just like it does you, because if you have a choice of a seed oil versus avocado oil or olive oil on the shelf, why would you pick something that's massively processed? Maybe it's 50 cents less or $1 less, right? It's not, I find the price difference. I went to the supermarket to see, is it a price thing? Yeah. It's really not a price thing, because there's very expensive seed oils out there, and there's lower cost avocado oils out there. So my contention is why are we arguing about something when we know it's already healthy? We know it's good for us. Let's just pick the things that are good for us, right?
That's the cool thing today. We have choice.
Right.
But some people listening, I'm sure they've experienced the paradox of choice as well. There's so many options, so many experts saying different things. It could be confusing. So my principle that I would love if you would take on, everybody listening, is to ask yourself a simple question. What have humans been doing the longest?
Right.
What did my grandparents eat? This is something I got to eventually in my clinical practice, working with people every day. And there was a time, 15 years ago, where it's if I was into something, you were going to be into it.
Yeah.
If I'm into raw foods, guess what? I'm creating programs around my beliefs at the time. Thankfully, over the span of several years, I had to get honest and say, yes, there are certain people just crushing it, getting great results. But there's always this percentage of people who are not.
Right.
And I had to get honest about that and to do a better job. And everything changed when I started paying attention to the individual person and their life, looking at their sleep quality, asking them about their heritage. Where's your family come from, right? So what did you eat traditionally? I have a patient, for example, that lived in, their grandparents came from Greece, right? And they were dealing with an autoimmune condition. So I started to bring up, do you eat the da-da-da? What about this? And they're like, no, my grandma, she used to make this stuff, but, I was like, well, how about we swap this thing out and we add in more of that? She was like, I love that. I love that growing up. I didn't know that I could have that. Just little things. Right. And also there's this connective tissue there as well for people. But instead of getting into this diet dogma and using some glorified framework,
Oh, for sure.
I leaned into let's personalize this, and everything is available. Let's do what's best for you right now where you are, and giving you the awareness that it's probably going to change over time too.
For sure.
You know, and to give you mental tools and cues to be able to switch things up when you need to.
Right. You know, going back to the culture aspect of this, a lot of people tell me, you know, a lot of my patients tell me like, oh, you know, we're around ultra processed food all the time. Like you mentioned, there's fast food restaurants everywhere. But I feel that your culture is something that you can create around you, right? And so you mentioned your kids, my kids as well. They rarely eat any fast food. They're eating mostly, you know, whole foods all the time because that's the culture of our family. We don't have that stuff at home. So it doesn't really matter what they see as we drive down the road.
Right.
They just know what is okay for our family and why. I think it's key to explain why. Our friends also have a similar mindset. And so we kind of create this culture around us that ignores the external influences of marketing. And that's why, like, red dye to me, like, yes, it was a massive thing. It got outlawed, or, you know, FDA took it off, made it a banned substance. But it didn't really matter to us because nothing we ate had red dye in it anyway.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I don't eat ring pops anymore, and, you know, these fake frostings or whatever.
Right.
Maraschino cherries and things like that. The chocolate covered cherries. That was another one of my grandparents. My grandfather's favorite things was this maraschino cherries, chocolate covered. But you know, this is the point. And by the way, just a sidebar with this ban.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about that.
I've been talking about this for years with the FDA and their policies, because it's just so many holes in this.
Right?
And there's supposed to be this watchdog, but it's not really like that.
I mean, that's a perfect example of the food industry just having way too much influence on the FDA, right?
Yeah. Oh, but listen to this. So this was back in 1997. All right. So right around 1997, the FDA, and I went and pulled it up. And this is the thing about it. There's been so many times that I'll find something and I'll popularize it that's right on the FDA site, and then it'll be gone. All right. But as of right now, they published this. It's on their website that they intended to remove the red dye back in the 90s, but they, in their own words, didn't have the resources to do it. Subsequently, though, they banned it in cosmetics.
Yeah, I saw that. Right.
But not in food. And so they literally said they were going to ban it in the 90s, but did not do it because of lack of resources. Now they're incredibly wealthy. Most of the money, of course, is coming from the pharmaceutical industry. About 75% of their scientific review budget is from the pharmaceutical industry. But it was just a matter of importance. And also, again, most people being unaware. And so my question was, all right, so they're making this big move now, banning red dye number 3. I just invited people to think about, did they just start with number 3? Was there a red number 2? Was there 1? What was there? Is there a 4?
Exactly.
All of these have been banned. Back in like the 60s, you know, red dye number 1 was like causing liver cancer. And, you know, the list goes on. Gastrointestinal lesions by a certain yellow dye. Huge outbreak in digestive distress, like hospitalizations by kids after a Halloween, and these kids consuming a orange dye, for example. And then it gets banned, right? So it's been this pattern, and the pattern, what I want to wake people up to is that it's usually replaced with something that is similarly toxic. The food industry is like, okay, that didn't work. Let's create something other synthetic, and then wait around for years, often decades, for us to get caught. Instead of, what is real? What is natural? What have humans been doing the longest? Yes, we can color things. Other countries have done this successfully, but the stuff looks different. Right, the cereal, which again, that's arguable. Should we be eating that in the first place? But it looks different in Japan versus the United States, or you know, in Great Britain, whatever the case might be. Every country has its issues, but we're the king of these problems. We're the king of allowing all manner of this devastation, and so, you know, to just lean back into this and mentioning what you shared, and we went on a hike together with our 2 sons. And, you know, just being able to understand that we get to create the culture.
Absolutely.
And so we have a larger culture scape that we're all existing in. We have a macro culture. But we can create a microculture in our own household.
Right.
I promise you, my son, and he will tell you this, my youngest son, he's not missing McDonald's.
Not at all.
He isn't. It's not a big deal to him. Now, I'm also going to share this from the perspective of, I understand we live in the world, all right? And he goes to school, he goes to birthday parties. We're not of course, like I've been through these levels, all right? So, and we still have friends who do this. They might bring their own kid's slice of cake to the party. We're not those parents, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's been exposed to things. But here's the cool thing. Because of the culture, he knows what it feels like.
Sure.
He knows what it feels like when he eats this stuff, and he doesn't feel that great. And so he's just like, this just happened. He just had a basketball game. He's 13. And he just had a basketball game with his school. Moms got together, bought a bunch of pizzas. Like, I don't want it. I'm like, B, it's cool. Just, like, you're not, he's like, nah, I'm good. He doesn't want it.
Your son and my son are
but he doesn't want it.
No. And like our sons are very similar. My son will pass by McDonald's on the way home. He's starving. I'm like, you want to just stop by McDonald's and get something? He's like, no, I don't want to go to McDonald's. I just want to get home and eat at home. Or let's go to, a restaurant where you can get something that is real food. And I'm not saying that to brag to the audience or anything like that. It's just like you said, it's a microculture that you create within your family and the priorities that you put as top of the list for your family, right? And so if food is not one of the top things in the priority list for your family, I don't know what else would be there, right? I mean, obviously, it's like food is part of your, Maslow's hierarchy, right? It's like shelter, food, safety. Mm-hmm. We need to make this a priority for our family and make this something that we put some intentionality behind, I think, right?
We just don't know that it matters when it really boils down to it. I know that I didn't. I did really well in school, but I was oblivious to this.
Yeah, I think we all were, right? Yeah.
Biology class in college, all right? My son's school now, they have a class. His science class is called The Science of You. All right, so they're relating it back to him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm just like, this is what we're paying for. Yeah, all right, one little up, but things change over time, and it's often difficult, of course, to have our kids in these environments, but that's with the education system, that's a conversation for another day. But when I was in my university biology class, it didn't relate to me. Right, so we're studying the cell.
You learn more about the frog than you do you. Right?
Yeah, why am I dissecting this worm? What is this, And I get it. There's some people that are fascinated by that, but it didn't relate to me. I was not made aware, nor was my teacher even aware, that when we're looking at this cell membrane, that membrane is made by your menu.
Right? Absolutely.
That the mitochondria is made by the meals that you eat, that the nucleus is made by the nutrients that you eat.
It's so true.
Right? There's a disconnect. The cells that we're studying I'm looking at food. It's food. We get to choose what we're making these things out of. And there are certain things that will damage these cells, and there are certain things that will help them to thrive. And so creating more connective tissue, helping people to realize how powerful food, like you're choosing what you're making your cells out of. You get to choose.
Right.
Do you want shitty cells, or do you want really healthy, resilient, vibrant cells, right? All the way to the mitochondria as well. Are you giving yourself the nutrients needed for your to stimulate mitochondrial genesis, like to create more mitochondria, right? Are you getting enough magnesium in your diet, for example? Are you getting in all these different things from real food, predominantly, to help your body do all the cool stuff that it can do to keep you healthy, to feel good? And again, most of us, it's a very superficial thing. When I was in college, and I had a college level nutritional science class, big auditorium class, just thinking back on what I thought food was, and I left there with the same thought, which is food is about basically weight loss or weight gain. Very rudimentary, make sure you tell people to get all their vitamins and minerals. What the hell does that even mean? Right? And this was the time of the food pyramid, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
But even, and this is an important point too, when we were taught about getting all your vitamins and minerals, like for example, make sure people are getting vitamin C. There's different forms of vitamin C, different forms of vitamin D, B12, magnesium, the list goes on and on. There's so many different forms. Now people know there's different forms of magnesium, but we were not taught any of this. Right? It's just like, because of that framing, it's just take a pill. Take a multivitamin and you're good. Take your Centrum. Right? That synthetic whatever, and just. But it's looking at our health through this very microscopic lens, when in reality, food is what makes us who we are. When you look in the mirror, you're seeing the food that you've eaten.
Yeah. Every cell in our body is made out of food at some point and is constantly in renewal. And the substrates for those cells come from the foods that we put into our mouths every single day and from the environment that we expose ourselves to. And it's such an important point because, we're not so separated from the foods biologically. We are made out of them.
Yeah. And if you think about that very point, how distant are we now from where our food comes from?
Absolutely. Very distant. What percentage of Americans have grown any of their own food in their homes, right?
It's exceedingly rare.
Yeah.
Exceedingly rare. And even farmers today, it's monocropping. It just it's the whole game has changed.
Yes.
This reminds me of the red dye. I remember growing up again, having these little juices. Yeah, I always a fan of different sodas and things like that, but I really love the drink, grape drink, apple drink.
Yes.
Right? And I would get this this grape drink or fruit punch was my favorite from Prairie Farms, right? Yes. Prairie Farms is right there. It said farmer owned, this little banner on it. It says 0% juice on there. It's propylene glycol, high fructose corn syrup, water, red dye, number whatever, blue dye. And in reality, again, it created this perception of wholesomeness. It's from Prairie Farms, right? Yeah, and it's farmer owned. This is wholesome. They're delivering this. It's on the store shelves.
Sure.
But I don't know many farmers in the not even traditional sense, but just in the sense of being a farmer who's whipping up propylene glycol and red dye 40 and
making all their
corn syrup in a vat it's Breaking Bad. They're not cooking up that's not a farmer. So even farming in the true sense of what that is exceedingly rare. Right. But it doesn't have to be that way. And this is the same thing in our country, the grassroots movements to change things. That red dye getting banned, that was through a grassroots movement.
Absolutely, right.
Of science-backed entities who can just compiling all this data over time and forcing the FDA's hand. Whereas in Europe, in particular, companies have to prove, and this is not true across the board, but largely that the newly invented synthetic ingredient is safe before adding it. Right. Here, it can be added, and then it's on the public, oftentimes, in grassroots movements to say, this is harming us. Let's do something about it because of the GRAS, right? Yeah. Generally recognized as safe. Right? This loophole, it's not even a loophole. It's a gaping, it's a gorge. I just saw a billboard for a movie, Gorge. Yeah. It's a gorge
in our system, right? I mean, look, and there's enough stuff out there that a great change right now. We don't need any more new chemicals in our food, right? We don't need another red dye.
20,000 is good, That's enough.
I mean, it's a good time in the current state of where our society is to just put a stop to all of this and say, prove it's safe before you put it in our food, right? And you brought up another great point, is the deceptive marketing practices of these food companies as well, which is it's just irritating and annoying now to even walk into a supermarket and see the stuff in green boxes and marked as healthy and good for you, and it's just trickery and the falsification involved just in plain sight. Yeah. It's just mind-blowing, right?
Now, the cool thing is, but it's a paradox because this shouldn't be like this anyways, but now we have real data on this, and we're able to see where the bodies are buried essentially with these food companies and see their practices. And actually I cited one of the studies in the Eat Smarter Family Cookbook on marketers for cereal companies and using very specific tactics to manipulate children, right? And so one of the studies that they did was bringing in a bunch of kids and having them to have some cereal, right? This is a new cereal that we're creating and rating their enjoyment on a 5-face, smiley face scale, all right? How many smiley faces do you give this? Yeah. Now they give the kids a cereal, same cereal, but it has a mascot on the box. It has a cartoon mascot. The kids across the board rated the cereal higher that had the mascot higher on the smiley point scale because they related to the cartoon character, right? And companies, they've been known this. They use this. They created so the eyes are looking a certain way. When you go down the aisle, obviously the colors. And these cereals, let's just
Toucan
be
Sam
honest.
with the big eyes.
Man, Toucan Sam, bro. But these
Toucan Sam's probably killed a lot of kids, people, over time, I mean, it's like that.
Toucan
that is garbage,
Sam,
right?
Tony the Tiger, the
Fruity
Snap
Pebbles.
Crackle Pop guys, they're all just like, there's
Public Enemy #1.
There's a movie on Netflix. It's done by, I think Jerry Seinfeld created it. And it was a story about Pop-Tart's origin and this battle between like Post and, whatever the other company was. And so they had these different characters, right? So like the cereal characters. And so here's the thing. We have to, again, we're born into conditions where we don't realize it's happening. I didn't know. I just wanted the Fruity Pebbles because they tasted good, and I had a great food experience with it.
And the crunch, and they have scientists that actually are food scientists that
they're geniuses.
They're geniuses. And for anyone out there that thinks that this is not an extremely intentional, lot of money put behind every marketing drawing, the colors, like you said, the kids in a room, the focus groups, the scientists that study the texture of food, the addictability of food. Like, it is a massive billions of dollars being spent on this to get you addicted to it and get you to buy it.
One of the greatest inventions and also demise of us is a gas chromatograph. So scientists were able to isolate flavors, right? So what makes that cherry flavor? What's the chemistry that makes that flavor? And now they could add that cherry flavor to things that aren't cherry, all right? And so this really muddied up the waters of our food intelligence because there's something really special about us as humans. There's a lot of really special things, of course, but I'm just thinking about my wife. But there are a lot of things that's special about us, but we have a very diverse and intelligent flavor palette, all right? The nose that we have, we can't sniff out we think like comparatively, like that dog can smell like who's got the cocaine at the airport. We can't do that. But we can taste the most subtle things, and this is, if you've never thought about, do you think about people with the wine tasting, for example, I taste a hint of,
oh, absolutely.
Cherry dirt and a rusty nickel. You know what I mean? Like, you could find these really unique flavors, but understanding that, and understanding how these food manufacturers manipulate our senses. And this is a very powerful evolutionary adaptation that we developed, our sense of taste and our sense of smell. Because the taste of things were indicative of the nutrition in it.
Sure.
So there's something called post-ingestive feedback, all right? And so, for example, if we were to eat a real cherry, our body would take notes, essentially, in a way, a memory of what nutrients came along with that flavor.
Right. So doing this all subconsciously. We have no idea in our brain, but
for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, this is just how it is. And so if you think about what a craving is, why do we have it? We're just messed up? Our design is just messed up? Why do we crave things? This is an evolutionary adaptation. It's an advantage to know when we need something. We have a craving for it, all right? So we'll use that cherry example. Okay, we got some vitamin C. We got a food source of melatonin. That's interesting in this cherry. We got some anthocyanins. We've got whatever. So you get all these different nutrients. And when you start to get deficient on a certain thing, your body's like, those cherries had that vitamin C that you need. You should go find some cherries, right? Great plan, right? Great way of living. Today, it's no longer the case because our flavor palette has been hijacked, right? And so we develop cravings and intentionally for all these abnormal things. That post-ingestive feedback has been massively disrupted. And so if we are deficient on something, we don't even know what to do. What it usually brings about, by the way, is hunger. When you're deficient, whether it's magnesium, vitamin C, omega-3s, whatever, your body is screaming at you like, I'm deficient. Bring some food in here so I can get this stuff. Let me go grab some Doritos and a sandwich, right? Because we keep feeding this infinite hole
Yeah.
and not getting the things that our body's actually calling out for. So this is one of the big hallmarks with taking back control of our metabolic health and beating obesity is addressing this epidemic of hunger.
Sure.
We've got to address our micronutrient needs. Micronutrient and macronutrient deficiencies leads to chronic overeating. Right? We need the things that our body's actually asking for so we can just get to baseline.
Right. I think you said something really key there, which is micronutrient and macronutrient deficiency leads to hunger. So like you were saying, another great example is pica, right? That's when people eat dirt because their body knows it needs iron and they're eating dirt. Yeah,
soap.
Chalk, right, exactly, because they're trying to find iron. That's this built into our neural pathways as almost like a subconscious reaction about what we need, to your point about the cherries, right? And so I think when you're hungry, it might not be that you're low on energy. It might be a lot of times is that you're hungry for nutrition, like real nutrition, so nutrient-dense food. And that's why when you're eating the ultra-processed food, which is minimally nutritious, very low nutrient density, you stay hungry, and then you keep eating more and more of it, which leads to obesity.
Yeah.
Right?
Sounds like a great business model.
Right, exactly. If you're trying to sell more food. But I mean, for people that are having trouble with, and this is one of the first things I do for people that are having trouble with weight loss is we look at their micronutrient levels and we find massive amounts of micronutrient deficiencies. And a lot of people, they're like, how am I deficient? I'm eating all the time. Well, you're eating food that's not nutrient dense. That's the issue. It's such a key unlock, I think. A lot of people talk about calories in, calories out as what leads to weight loss or weight gain, but it's just such a simplistic view of what's really happening.
Yeah, I love the analogy, of course. I've said this many times over the years that, it's looking at the human body as a calculator.
Right.
And it's just, we're so much more dynamic and,
Right.
And even, one of the things I did in my last book in Eat Smarter was I took people through, and this is the first book to do this, and I'm honored to say, where the hell calorie came from.
Yeah.
Right? So going back to the origins, which started in physics, this had nothing to do with nutrition.
Right.
And, looking at how calories were measured, but how they're actually put on packages today is radically different. They're not using a bomb calorimeter and incinerating the food and seeing how much it eats the water and all that. No, they're just using, it's called the Atwater system. It's just it's kind of like Gras.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's sort of this, whatever. But even in that, in its intention, your body is not a bomb calorimeter.
No.
When you don't incinerate a food, all right, your body, there's a lot of things in a food that aren't even digested.
Right.
Or they're net.
Right.
It's just like, we are so much more complex, and looking through that lens it is really making people, this created so much confusion and so much unnecessary struggle. And I appreciate, because I've been in this field for 22 years now, where we're looking at calories, right? I've been through that phase.
Same.
And I appreciate the people who found great success with that. But you're probably going to find that most people are not successful following this calorie management idea, because it's not looking at how the food impacts your overall metabolic health. Because your body, how your body associates with the calories from the exact same food can be dramatically different from week to week.
Right.
All right. And there's certain foods that there's certain conditions, right? So if people have issues with their thyroid, for example, this can slow their metabolic rate dramatically.
Absolutely, right.
And yet they're eating 1,000 calories a day because they're told, like, I just got to cut my calories. And they're not only not losing weight, they could be even gaining weight. How's that possible? How is that possible?
Right.
The body is smarter than your calculator. All right? It matters. It is a thing. It is something that we try to use to make sense of something we can't make sense of.
Right.
It is far too complex. Where we are today, just one of the things, is the impact of our microbiome on how our body absorbs and metabolizes calories. All right? We've got some really cool studies on this, and labels of, like, quote, fat bacteria and being able to absorb more from the food that you're eating. But we're going to bring us back to a very important point here. The quality of the food itself.
Right.
All right. there's a study that was done in food and nutrition research, and they had test subjects to eat sandwiches. One was considered to be a whole food sandwich, which was whole grain bread and cheddar cheese, all right?
Okay.
Versus an ultra processed sandwich, which was white bread and cheese product, right? Which is like Kraft singles.
Right.
Okay. After compiling all the data, and by the way, the sandwiches are the exact same amount of calories, fats, proteins, carbohydrates, same. Should impact them the same. When people ate the ultra processed food sandwich, they had about a 50% reduction in their calorie burn after eating that sandwich. Their body just held on to more of the calories they just consumed for some strange reason.
Wow.
The food itself is a factor. It's not just the calories. It's how your body associates with those calories.
Yeah.
And I can go on and on with that, but it's just we're oversimplifying the wrong stuff.
Yes, I agree. The same goes for exercise, not to get off food, but the same goes for exercise. I think, I grew up in a time where if you want to lose weight, you just stay on that treadmill and keep burning calories on the little calorie meter, a little digital readout of how many calories you burned. So if you eat a donut, then you go on the treadmill for an hour and try to burn 300 calories to make up for that donut. And what happens? The body's so much more complex than that. Sure, you burn 300 calories, but now you're hungry. You're inflamed. You're, you're dehydrated. There's so much more going on.
Your insulin levels are bonkers.
Exactly. Yeah. And so these are all the things that people need to think about. Sure, like you said, if you had a bomb calorimeter, it would all work out. But we are not bomb calorimeters. Right. We are a complex system of not just our biology, but the biology of the microbiome that's inside of us as well, right? Man. And the microbiome controls our hunger, probably even more than our brain does because of the signals from our gut to our brain through our microbiome. And this is all, we need to consider all of this, but in reality, it's a lot simpler than having to worry about any of this stuff because in reality, going back to the beginning of this conversation, is just swearing off ultra-processed food, right? 95% of the time, don't eat anything ultra-processed. Sure, once in a while you go to a birthday party, you need to. Fine, but for the most part, you shouldn't, and create a culture around that for your family and the people you hang with.
Yeah, just let's make it the exception and not the rule.
Right.
Right. And so I'm a big fan. Like, we live in the world. All right. Yeah. We live here in the United States. That's where this is getting recorded. Right. There is a lot of like food party stuff. All right. Absolutely. There's a lot of mouth pleasure out there. Yeah. No Diddy. I'm sorry.
That's true.
There's a lot of different things. We got to edit that. I said no Diddy. We got to take that out. It's too sensitive.
I like mouth pleasure.
It's because you came in, man. I was like, I dropped it in there. All right. So anyways, there are a lot of incredible things for us to enjoy, right? To experiment with. But if we're coming into this with a foundation of real food, number one, chances are this other stuff isn't going to be that attractive. And you're going to notice when you have it. Like, it's just not going to taste the same. I remember I'm from St. Louis, all right? So one of the iconic places in St. Louis is Emo's Pizza. Thin crust, St. Louis style pizza, all right? I grew up, I was probably like at least like 2.5% Emo's Pizza, all right? And I remember, it was probably 10 years of working in health and eating real food. And my oldest son, he wanted Emo's Pizza for a birthday party with his friends. It was like paintball and Emo's was like the things that he wanted. And so I remember taking a piece of the pizza and I was like, this doesn't taste real. This tastes like pasty. It's just like, it's not like I remembered, and I just wasn't impressed. It didn't encourage me to have more,
Happened to my pizza.
Right. Now, we do have those moments as well. But the best thing that we can do, and this is going to circle us back, just to complete this, is let's make it so that it's easy to eat good things. With this being said, coming from where I come from, I love flavor, right? I'm not one of these people that's like, eat to live. You got to eat to live. Don't live to eat. That's actually abandoning. And again, just as a scientist, that's abandoning reason, because what drives us to eat things is that they taste good. It's built into us.
We're not wired to eat to live.
Right. Exactly. We're kind of wired up to gorge on things, that taste good. Exactly. And, but also, again, living in a natural environment so that we can survive, But we've evolved this very unique flavor palette, and we're driven to eat things that taste good, and that's okay. Let's support that. Let's not go so far that we're hyper stimulating and damaging ourselves with all this fake stuff. Let's find the joy in real food.
Right.
And so part of doing this is, again, creating that microculture in our own household. It's easier to make healthier food decisions based on the data if we're eating with our friends and family on a consistent basis. All right. So another study, and this was for me about access, because growing up after I left living with my grandmother, living with my mom, my stepbrother, stepsister, stepfather, it's my little brother and sister, and my mom, I can count on my hands how many times we ate together. And I'm not exaggerating. I can count on my hands. It's probably a holiday here or there, but it's usually me and my brother and sister just getting food and eating somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes my mom would eat with us sometimes, but most of the time it's just like grab and go. We scatter. And had my mom known the data, I'm sure she could have made an adjustment and just been more intentional about us eating together, but she didn't know, just like most parents do not know. I know that I didn't know until I got this data.
Right.
And so this study analyzed the eating behaviors of minority children who were generally in the context of a low-income environment like I come from. And the researchers, because that was my thing, like my mom wasn't around that much. You know, my stepfather wasn't around that much. Like
They were working.
this sounds like this data is for people who have access.
No.
But what they found was that when these children ate 4 meals with a caregiver, you know, an adult, somebody who, you know, they're a parent, 4 meals a week, could have been any meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, didn't matter. 4 meals a week, these kids ate dramatically less ultra-processed foods, namely chips and soda. They ate 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables 5 days a week.
Wow.
All right. And obviously they had far better health outcomes.
Yeah.
But the researchers noted, this was the rub, when the television was never or rarely on during meal times.
Makes sense.
All right. There's something about that TV being on, you know?
Yeah.
And so this was super encouraging for me because no matter where we are, no matter where we come from, we can be intentional about eating together because it's going to support the health outcomes of everybody, especially our children. Let me share something for adults. Tech workers. So a study was done looking at workers at IBM, and they found, this is going to get to why this works. They found that the participants who were able to consistently get home, quote, get home in time for dinner, their work morale stayed high, work stress stayed manageable, productivity stayed high. But as soon as things started to cut into their ability to eat dinner with their families, work morale starts to plummet, stress elevates, and their productivity goes down.
Yeah.
This is Captain Obvious stuff, but we don't think about it when we're in it. All right. Eating with their families helped them to metabolize stress.
Yeah.
It helped them to process the stress that they were carrying from the work that they're doing. We need that outlet. We need to, quote, unplug. But what we usually do is we go from one plug to the next.
Sure.
Right? We go from that plug in our stressful job or whatever the case might be, traffic. Right now, if people only knew what you had to do to get here today with the commute because of the fires. But that, and then going and just getting right on technology, we're not getting a chance. There's a difference between relaxation and restoration.
Sure.
There's a difference.
Right.
And we're not getting a chance to actually switch over to that parasympathetic, what's the nickname? Rest and digest.
Right.
Rest and digest nervous system. We're chronically in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And we might have the feelings of being relaxed, right? We're laying, watching TV, eating snacks, whatever. And there's a place for that. But if you want to be restored, sit down and eat with your family. Eat with people that you care about.
Yeah.
Be around real people because our chemistry changes. And this is getting to the point. That IBM study was highlighting something, which is a big part of this is being around people you care about. Our chemistry changes. Of course, thoughts create chemistry in our bodies, but a lot of stuff is happening unconsciously.
Sure.
We start producing more things like oxytocin.
Sure.
And this is one of the hormones that, of course, there's been a lot of revelations recently. People call it the cuddle hormone or love hormone. But this is one that is really risen to the top because it has a nullifying effect on cortisol.
Amazing.
Right? And I talked about this years ago, my first book, Sleep Smarter. I talked about oxytocin. And so now we know that that's one of the things kind of counteracting, helping you to metabolize stress,
Such a good
calm
point.
down, oxytocin. There are a ton of different neurotransmitters and hormones that are changing when we're around people that we care about. Because what it's activating really is an overall feeling of safety,
Safety, right?
right? Feeling seen, feeling like we matter, feeling a part of something.
Mm-hmm.
These are all deep psychological human needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is more of the kind of meta perspective of what's happening physically. A change is happening with that switch over from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic.
Sure.
But I want to give a very practical psychological thing.
Yeah.
When we sit down and we eat with our children, and I want to give some tips too,
Sure.
if that's okay.
Please, I would love them. Yeah.
Okay. When we sit down and eat with our children, which is, again, it's becoming it's an endangered activity in our society today.
Yeah.
Our children today, more than ever, even when they're with their friends, they're not with their friends.
Right. That is true.
They're together, but they're separate. They're together, but they're on their devices.
On their
I've seen it.
devices.
I've
Yep.
seen these kids hanging out and they're all on their phones. They might
Yes.
share a meme, a little
Right.
laugh, like, look at this meme, but they're disconnected, all right? This is their chance, and they're missing. And of course, you see the obviously massive epidemics of mental health,
Sure.
metabolic health, the list goes on and on. There's a reason. Part of sitting down and eating with your children, you get to see them. They get to feel seen.
Oh.
When the phone, when the technology is not in the way, someone is seeing them and letting them know that they matter. You get a chance to listen to them, to listen to the sound of their voice, to hear what's going on in their life. And we need this. We need to feel like we matter. We need to feel like our voice is important, right? And so we're helping to feed and putting in these psychological nutrients that help our kids to thrive, right? And the same thing for us too,
Right.
you know? But we're going to miss out on that if we're not being intentional about it. And so one of the tips is, and this is one of the most science-backed things you could do right now, when you have that family dinner or dinner with a significant other, friend, leave the phone out of it. Don't even have it sitting on the table,
It should not
if
be
at
on
all
the table.
possible.
Right.
Because one of the studies that I shared in the book, even having it in the line of sight
Yes.
led to disruptions. People literally, they're strapped to these brain monitors, all this stuff. Their brains were distracted just when their phone was near them.
Yeah.
Because that phone, our brains, like, it's always looking to automate. Your brain knows there's a lifetime of goodies in that phone, right? And so you might be trying to listen to your friend, but there's part of your brain that's like, yo, there's some stuff on Instagram right now. Like I could, so getting the phone out of your line of sight, putting it away.
Not even in your pocket, I would say.
Yeah.
Because then you're
that's another thing
anticipating a
too.
buzz, right? You're anticipating a buzz. You're anticipating it to ring.
They study
it's
that
too
too.
easy, right?
Is it on your person? Was it
Yeah.
in a book bag? Whatever the case might be.
Right.
A lot of times, and I'm just being 1,000, I'm the guy who doesn't bring their phone into the restaurant.
Right.
If we're, even if we sit down to watch a movie together, I leave my phone in the kitchen, on the kitchen counter. Our table, make your dinner table a phone-free zone.
Yeah.
Make it a phone-free zone. And some families have, because of the extent of the addiction, some families have like a little lock box everybody puts their phone in before dinner or whatever. It doesn't have to go that far, but make it a phone-free zone. But here's the rub. Because we're addicted, we have to replace it with something of equal or greater value. You can't just be like, get off your phone, John, Sarah, get off your phone, come eat dinner. We're going to have a nice family dinner.
Yeah.
I was listening to this really handsome guy on Darshan Show, and he said, sorry, I'm just kidding. But to replace it with something of greater or equal value. So what does that look like? Being intentional about creating something that is memorable and enjoyable for our kids. Now, this is where the work comes in. All right? We have a culture that's like something for nothing.
Right.
All right? Easy. We want it easy.
Yeah.
But in reality, you get to choose your heart.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing this, you're going to see the fallout in your family and in your health. If you do this, it might be challenging initially, but you're going to see everybody thriving. And so part of this, I'm just going to give an example of a family that I worked with. And they have multiple kids, all right? So 2 kids, and the 2 kids have drastically different personalities, all right?
They always do.
Of course.
Right.
And so one of the kids is very detail oriented, likes to know what time everything's happening. you can cater to that, but you have to pay attention to your child. You know, let them know what's going on. Maybe, you know, this is another tip, actually, I'm embedded in here. According to the data, the minimum effective dose was 3 days a week. Pick which days those are.
Yeah, make it always those 3 days.
Monday, Wednesday, brunch on Sunday. Whatever whatever looks like for you and your family.
Right.
But schedule it. This is another science-backed tip because it creates a tangibility.
Sure.
We got all this other stuff on the calendars. I just saw one of your employees out here.
Yeah.
Her calendar looked bonkers.
I saw that too.
It made me a little uncomfortable. All right. It's a lot of stuff on the calendar, but where's her time for her? Where's her time for her family? Right? She's got to make sure that that's on the calendar too. Schedule it. Make it real. It creates some tangibility to it. Also, 3 meals a week is the minimum effective dose. And so circling back to invite that child in who knows, you know, they like to be on their technology. They're a big fan of desserts, right? So just knowing like, okay, so, you know, tonight we're going to have the pumpkin muffins, right? The pumpkin muffins from the Eat Smarter Family Cookbook is going to be the dessert. Or you can ask them, like, get them involved. Was another thing that was very helpful with them is to get them involved by giving them choices. And this is pretty true for all of us. But like, hey, do you want the frozen yogurt cherry pops or do you want the pumpkin muffins tonight, right? Oh, pumpkin muffins, right? And so just getting them involved and what is to come. Another thing was, and this for the other kid, loved games, right? Loved like activities.
Right.
And so you can embed that in to, you know, show some attention to the other kid, right? And so knowing that after dinner they're going to get to play a game. Or I had no idea, but there are some families that actually have games during dinner, right? So they're like maybe playing a board game or, you know, some kind of a, you know, charades or whatever the case might be. Heads up. You know, there's so many different things, but like bringing in things that are memorable. So now I'm going to use myself as an example. For whatever, and this was not, I'm not going to say it's not intentional, but it just kind of happened, you know. We were having family dinners, but for somehow, some way, we ended up like, it would like evolve into like dance battle or a rap battle, all right? And so it evolved to the place where my youngest son had an iPad and somebody would like make a beat on the iPad, right? Little like whatever, little rickety beat. And then it got to a place where I went on Amazon and bought a microphone and just like we literally passed around a microphone and just became part of family dinners. And what you focus on expands. What you focus on expands. The week that this cookbook came out, I went on Good Morning America and it was cool. It was fun. But one of the most memorable experiences of my life, I went on a show called Sway in the Morning. And Sway was really iconic for being an MTV VJ back in the day. But he's a big part of hip-hop culture. And, you know, just within that month, you know, like, I don't know, LL Cool J was there, Missy Elliott, all these iconic people in music. And I went there to, of course, you know, which is amazing. Maybe they might be listening right now, but Tracy, you know, one of his co-hosts, and his Sway, of course, listen to my show. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, follow me, and you never know who's listening. And so I came there to talk about empowerment and to just, you know, and it was amazing. Like, it was electric in the room, you know, just sharing some information about health and taking some questions and things like that. And I thought the interview was over. So when artists come on this show, they freestyle. They do a freestyle rap. I'm not an artist. I'm an author. All right. I'm a scientist. But little did I know, when I was walking in, when Sway introduced himself to my two sons, my youngest son he's 13, and my oldest son is 24. But at the time they were like 2 years younger, a year younger, whatever.
This is in New York? You brought me
This is in New York.
New York, yes. You brought your kids with you and everything. That's great.
And so when my oldest son dapped up Sway, like met him, shook his hand, hug, he whispered in Sway's ear, "My dad can freestyle." Oh, no way. I had no idea.
Your son said that to Sway.
All right. So I'm sitting there thinking the interview is over. Like, that was awesome. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's go get some food. And then his producer, DJ, puts on this song. The music on. And like Sway just started getting hype. I'm like, okay, wow, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on here. I'm oblivious. And then he was like, I heard there was a, you know, healthy hyena in the house, whatever. And I'm just like, what is happening? You can see my face on the YouTube video. I'm like,
wait,
what is going on? I was like, okay, let's go. All right. So, I just started freestyling off of what was in the room,
So cool.
And it was amazing. I've never seen them flip out so much with any of the artists that come on there because it's not expected of me.
Yes. You're an author, right?
What we focus on expands. A part of my family culture reached its way out to impact the lives of thousands of people that were listening live, maybe, tens of thousands, whatever the case might be. And it was like an extension. And the message in that is wherever you go, you take your culture with you.
Sure.
All right. That microculture you create is influential to the larger culture.
Sure.
Potentially, if you choose to demonstrate it, right? And so I did this freestyle. I was like, I even put my sons into the song, into the bars. I brought the cookbook into the bars, and it was amazing, man.
That's awesome.
And that experience is something that I will never forget.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, something that feeds into itself. And so what you will find, my message is, what you will find is that when you invest in creating that microculture, you're going to see it flower and present itself in the most amazing ways you don't expect.
Right.
I'm not saying you're going to have to freestyle at a parent-teacher conference or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But something magical is going to happen. Some things magical will happen when you choose to create that healthy microculture. No matter what's going out there in the world, you get to decide the culture you create in your own household. Right. Make it easy to be healthy. Make it easy for your kids to make good choices. It's going to take some work. You're going to have to pay attention to your kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this with love. And I'm saying this because I've made mistakes too. I'm nowhere near perfect. With that being said, our kids need us. Yeah. Pay attention to them, see them. A lot of times we don't want to make that choice. I'm just being 1,000. Sometimes I'm just like, you just need to get your ass in here and eat. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
This isn't a democracy, all right? Versus having the energy, because I'm taking care of myself, to be more judicious, to be more patient and kind and perceptive and pay attention. This all starts to feed back into itself. It's going to take some work because I don't know if anybody's ever seen the show Yellowstone, but
I'm sure everyone's seen that show.
There can be a Beth in the family, all right, who doesn't, she's always causing problems at dinner. You might have a family member like that, but love on them. You know them better than anybody. You know your significant other better than anybody. But a lot of times because we're tired, we're just like, I don't want to deal with this. Right. I don't want to have to play the game with you, right? But they have their personality. We know what they like. We know what motivates them, what demotivates them. The same with our kids. Right. So do the work. Invest in yourself, number one, which is, I know it's crazy. It's hard. It's hard to do. And this is, I'm involved in this too. Invest in yourself, but invest in your family. Pay attention to them. Invite them in. Make them a part of it. Right. All right. The more inputs that you can get, give them choices, but follow these tips. Number one, 3 meals a week. Put on the calendar. That's the minimum effective dose. Do this for yourself and your family. Number 2, make it a phone-free zone. All right? Your family deserves this. You deserve it. Number 3, it has to be replaced with something of greater equal value. It's going to take you to listen to your kids, figure out what that is, and implement those things. Whether it is some kind of artsy thing that happens at dinner after dinner, singing or...
We do high-low what the hex. What's the best part of your day, the lowest part of your day, and something funny or crazy that happened to you. We call it high-low what the hex. We do it at every single dinner. Brings out some stories about school. Yeah. They get to hear what we did during the day. I hear what they did during the day. And they had no idea, what my highs or lows were during the day before this. And so it's been a game changer for us. And then we play the humming game. Guess what song I'm humming? So exactly like what you're saying, have some structure and intentionality around that dinner moment. Because this, usually for most families, it's the only moment you'll have that day with the family, right?
These times are limited, man.
Exactly.
Your kids will grow up before you know it, truly. These are the times, this is when we can really get that time together as well, so take advantage. Right. Yeah,
so you said that was 3. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. 4, what's 4?
4 would be... how did you know this, man? You beat me to it, which is like intentionally integrating something that is a unifier.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
So a gratitude practice, for example, that's one of the things that we do. We've been doing for years. We'll share 3 things that we're grateful for from that day, right? And I like yours as well.
Right.
We did, back in the day, we did something along the lines of, what did I fail at today? We did that one for a while, And what these things do, it humanizes us as parents, right? Which is, again, I had this stoic, and my boys still kind of feel that way about me, but they feel closer to me, right? And they also, the thing that I've noticed, and I've never shared this before, but when I'm not at my best, they're right there to lift me up.
Absolutely.
They pick it up, like because of me, and it's because I'm not acting like dad has got it all together, which I might look that way. My wife has said that to me many times. When like something, I'm like, she's like, but you look so good. I'm like, I'm not good. I'm not good, But just, and it can be difficult, especially for men, but just vocalizing and sharing, and that practice has humanized me. And so my kids can relate to me. They can have a idea of like what might be to come and lessons, but also they get to express themselves.
Sure.
What happens is it's an opener. It's something to get them talking, to get out of their, like, especially my son is 13, his little teenager bag, and just to get him talking and to feel heard, to be seen. And it opens up things. It's a unifier. The dinner table itself is a unifier.
It is a unifier, right?
So those are 4 tips.
That's so powerful, man. I mean, to bring that intentionality and that much structure around dinner time specifically for families is huge. And I think it's a game changer that most people have forgotten. They've maybe not forgotten, but they've de-emphasized it in their life. And so if that's the one message you take away from today's podcast is focus on that dinner again. And, I read your book. I love about this book is that it's not just a cookbook. Like you learn about nutrition, about the science of family, about structure around dinner, all these things. You learn so much. And I can tell you put your heart and soul into this book for sure. Yeah. You really have. And it's a beautiful book. And so glad you brought it to me when I was on your podcast. You gave it to me. I read it and we made the recipe.
Who knew that it would turn into a magical moment like that? Like that was like, it really blew me away.
Right.
I was not expecting that to happen, with you making the dessert from the book. Like it's not that my heart was like small like the Grinch's, but it just made my heart get bigger.
Sure, absolutely. Like one of the things, we did at that dinner that we had shared together, and also I do with all my friends, and I've done this for years, is even if you're out with some friends, bring some intentionality to it, and just, we did it around the table where we asked one question, everyone gets to speak, and you listen to that one person. Yeah. It's called a Jeffersonian dinner because, Thomas Jefferson, he couldn't hear out of 1 ear, so he would make everyone speak one at a time. And he asked everyone a question, and you go around the table and you answer that one question. It really brings what used to be just a random friend dinner into an intentional moment of connection by just doing something simple like that. And if you're listening to this podcast, you haven't tried this with your friends or your family, give it a shot. I mean, it really is a powerful thing that bringing the community and connection back to our lives is insanely powerful and beneficial. Yeah,
absolutely. And I appreciate that, man. Just that experience, I'll never forget. I'll never forget that. And, like you said, this was, a lot of people say this, being a labor of love, but this was my family, I really opened myself up and experimented with these things for many years and working with families, working with individuals over the years. And, for me, this is the best resource that you can have. And I see it now, of course, with social media, you see it in people's kitchens all over the world, and which is really, it's amazing. Like I couldn't have dreamed of anything better. But I'm a big foodie, so obviously we leaned into the culture that we, grew up here in the United States with. I love breakfast food. McDonald's breakfast was my thing, so I created like an upgraded breakfast sandwich with all real food ingredients, the sweet potato protein pancakes and the salmon burgers. Everybody's invited, by the way. It's inclusive. Yeah. Whatever diet framework you prescribe to, whether it's, from vegan to carnivore, but we're just using, because, like the veggie burgers out there, they're terrible, ultra processed. So it's like there's a veggie... and then there's the classic grass-fed beef burger or pescatarian. The salmon burger might be my favorite, Now, let me take that back. It depends on the day.
Yeah.
But right now I'm loving the salmon burger. But also, as you mentioned, there are over 250 peer-reviewed studies embedded in the content of the book, told in this great story form. Like one chapter, I put a bunch of like superhero Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Which was really fun because it's like a big part of my family culture as well. So, you could just go through it. It's fun. It's fun to read, but it's also giving you all the tools that you need to revolutionize your kitchen culture.
Yes,
because that's a part of it too. You have to create a vibe for yourself if you're going to be in the kitchen. Giving yourself permission for that. But also,
we didn't get a chance to talk about that a lot, about actually cooking the food and how much connection that brings back into your life to the food that you're putting in your body. And then once you start doing that, you don't put chemicals in your body anymore. You understand how much the choices affect your biology when you're making the food, right? So sorry to interrupt you, but I thought that was an important point that you made in the book too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And again, leaning into the fact that we do have this culture today, we're an emoji culture, and so I leaned into that. And so as I'm talking about these, it's just about 40 specific foods that have a ton of data on their efficacy for human health, creating different benefits, whether it's cognitive benefits, gut health, or heart health, whatever the case might be, supportive of metabolic health, quote, fat burning. And there aren't really fat burning foods per se, but like, oh wow, this study showed that this particular food does this with your metabolism. So I use emojis to denote those, right? So you don't even have to read the studies. Just know like, okay, this one has the brain emoji, the muscle emoji, heart emoji, and then you'll see those emojis in the recipe section as well. So you can eat for a purpose. If you're really focused on improving your sleep, right, you can eat some of these recipes that are giving your body these, I call them good sleep nutrients.
Sure.
That have the most data affirming how these are involved. And this is one of those things, again, you could have the most fancy pants mattress, do all the room hacking, biohacking. If you're deficient in the nutrients that create your sleep-related hormones and neurotransmitters, you're still going to struggle. So these are like basic things that can be addressed in one cookbook. So yeah, it was a lot to put together. And like you said, I'm so grateful it came out so beautiful, and my family's
there's some pictures of your family in the book all throughout, and it's fantastic. Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for joining me today, Shawn. I mean, this has been such a great conversation. And I love how deep we get, man. I love it.
Me too. This is fun. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
The history of the calorie is so interesting. A calorie is a measure of heat. It was originally devised or came from a guy named Wilbur Atwater in the late 1890s. And he basically put foods into a bomb calorimeter, burned them up, and looked to see how much heat a food creates.